All right, so our goal here is to figure out what this angle is up here. So in order to do that, I'm gonna have to work my way through each shape using what we know about their angles. So what I see that I can start with is that right here with this pentagon, I can see that all the sides are congruent by the marks. So I'm gonna use my formula, which is the n-2. Times 180 to figure out what the measures are here. So when I take n minus, so in this case, n would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it has 5 sides. So when I put 5 in here for n, I would get 3 times 180. And I'm gonna grab my calculator.
What do you need a calculator for?
I need a calculator to type this in because I don't know these numbers. All right, so that gives me 540. And remember, this formula is to find all those angles together. So since it is a regular polygon, I can just divide that by how many there are. So I'm going to take that and divide it by 5. And that gives me that each of these angles is 108. So I'm going to go through in my picture and label that each one of these is 108. These would be, well, I'll go ahead and label them. These would be as well, but since I know my goal is to get up to this corner, these angles probably aren't going to help me do that. All right, from there, I see that I have a straight line here.
It is hard to see the pen.
The pencil?
Whatever you're using, it's hard to see it on the pink thing.
Okay. So here, this is 108, and I know that these two angles together make a straight line. So I'm going to take 108 and subtract it from 180 to figure out that this angle right here is 72 degrees. Go ahead and cut it. All right. Okay. So now we've got a trapezoid, and we know that if these two sides are parallel, that these two angles have to be supplementary. So to figure out this angle down here, I would take 180 minus my 72, which would give me 108 degrees for this angle down in the corner. And then again, working with supplementary angles, these make a straight line. If this one's 108, that gives me that this one is 72. And since I have a parallelogram here, that these two sides are parallel, I know that opposite angles have to be congruent. So if this is 72, this is 72 degrees. I also know that consecutive angles have to be supplementary. So these have to add up to 180. So working backwards, I'd take 180 minus the 72. So this one has to be 108. And likewise, the angle diagonal from it would also have to be 108. I could also double check myself. All of these angles right here should add up to 360. So that's another way we could have gotten there. So just because I'm going one way doesn't mean that you couldn't have found it another way. All right, so working from there, I'm gonna just continue to kind of fill in my bottom and work my way up. I know that these three angles together make a straight line. So in order to figure out what the green angle is right there, I'm gonna take 180. I'm gonna subtract this 108. I'm gonna subtract this 23, which gives me that this angle right here is 49 degrees. From there, I'm looking at my green quadrilateral, and I know that all the angles in a quadrilateral have to add up to 360. So I'm going to take 360 minus 49 minus 42 minus 161 to figure out that this angle right here is 108. And looking back, I also could have used supplementary, so if I look, those two add up to 180. So again, there's a lot of built-in checks as we're going through this as well. Let's see, down here, I don't think I'm quite ready to go to this triangle because I don't know this piece, so it looks like I'm going to have to work my way up. Again, remember, I don't have to fill in every single angle along the way. My goal is just to get to what this angle is up in the corner. Okay, go ahead and cut it. From here, I'm going to start working my way up. So here I've got a full circle, so I know those have to add up to 360. So I'm going to take 360 minus this 161 right here, minus this 53 right here, and that gives me this purple angle that's left in the circle has to be 146 degrees. Here I'm going to use my triangle, so I know a triangle has to add up to 180, so I'm going to take 180 minus this 29 degrees, minus this 53 degrees, which is going to give me that this angle right here is 98 degrees. From here, I'm going to go back to work with my supplementary angles. So I know these make a straight line. So I'm going to take 180 minus 98, which gives me that this angle right here is 82. These are vertical, or we could also use the fact those are supplementary. So this one's also 98. And again, either using vertical or supplementary, we can come up with the fact that this one's going to be 82. All right, looking around here, I see this kind of purplish shape that I can work with and find this angle right here. So I know that's 34, and together those make a straight line. So I'm going to take 180 minus 34, and that gives me that this angle right here is 146. And then I know all of these angles in here have to add up to something. I don't know that number right off the top of my head, but I can use this same formula I used for the pentagon up here. So I just need to count number of sides. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides here. So I'm going to use my n minus 2 times 180. Only this time for n, I'm going to plug in that 6. So here I would have 6 plugged in there, which would give me 4 times 180. I put that in my calculator, I get 720. So I know that all these angles in this purplish shape have to add up to 720. So I'm going to take 720 minus 146, minus 82, minus 115, minus 123, minus 122, and that gives me this angle left over here has to be 132 degrees. From there, I can work with supplementary angles again here. So I know if this is 132, that has to be 180 minus 132, which gives me that this is 48 degrees. And then all these angles together in the triangle have to add up to 180. So I'm going to take 180 minus the 48 minus the 34, which gives me that this angle in here, I'm going to draw an arrow because it's kind of small to squeeze it in there, is going to be 98 degrees. All right, so here I know that these are supplementary. So when I take 180 minus this 98 right here, I get that this angle is 82 degrees. And then I'm looking for some other things that I can work with here. So here I've got 2 parallel lines. So that means these angles are same side interior, which means they also have to add up to 180. So if this one's 82, I'd take 180 minus 82 to figure out that this angle right here has to be 98 degrees. Once I'm there, I know that all 3 of these put together make a straight line. So I can take 180 minus that 98 minus that 29. And that gives me that this pink angle in here has to be 53 degrees. From there, I've got a quadrilateral here, so all of those have to add up to 360. So I'm going to take my 360 minus 82 minus 98 minus 53 to get that this angle up here is 127 degrees. Once I have that, I can work with the fact that these are supplementary. So I'm going to take 180 minus the 127, which gives me 53 degrees. And then I can work within my triangle. These all have to add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 29 minus 53 to figure out this angle right here is 98 degrees. And again, I may or may not need those, but that way I at least have them. Do be careful here. These do not make a straight line, so they are not supplementary, even though it'd be really cool if I could just go straight there and start to get closer to that question mark. But since these don't make a straight line, I can't do that. All right, so I'm gonna be honest, from here I got a little stuck, so luckily I can pause my video and try to figure things out. But what it came down to is I had to come back down here and somehow figure out angles here. So what I started looking for were parallel lines. So I know that this line is parallel to this line. And when I do that, I can trace over these and I have a Z, which means I have alternate interior angles on that parallel, on those parallel lines. So if this one's 49 degrees, if those lines are parallel, I know that this angle up here is also 49 degrees because they're alternate interior angles. So from there, I can subtract from 180 and work to find this right here. So I would have 180 minus 49 from right here, minus 42 from right there, which would give me this purple angle left over there has to be 89 degrees because those all make a straight line. Then I've got 4 of the 5 angles within this shape, so I've just got to count up sides to figure out what those have to add up to. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So again, I'm going back to my n minus 2 times 180 for this. And in this case, I've got 5 sides, so I'm plugging 5 in there. So 5 minus 2 gives me 3 times 180, which gets me back to 540, which is good because this had 5 sides, if you remember, so did our one we started out with over here, so it's good we've got that same number. So here I'm going to take 540 and subtract out all these angles. So I'm subtracting out the 89, the 146, the 82, and the 98. And I'm left with the fact that this angle right here is 125 degrees. So from there, that purple angle is supplementary with the yellow one because they make a straight line. So I'm going to take my 180 minus 125, and we're finally in that yellow triangle, so that's good. So I know this angle down here is 55. So now I've got some information that's going to get me real close to this question mark up here that I'm looking for. If we notice these marks, that's telling me that I have an isosceles triangle. So those 2 sides are the same, which means the 2 base angles are the same. So if this one's 55, that tells me that this one has to be 55. And then I know all my angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. So I'm taking 180 minus the 55s. And that gives me that my question mark has to be 70 degrees. I do want to put in there, you don't need to expect anything quite this difficult on your quiz, but there is a shape that's made up of a couple different polygons where you have to kind of work your way through. So nothing quite this involved, but make sure that if you're given, like if I was just given this part of the picture, I could work within it or any other part to make sure that you're prepared for your quiz. So if this was a struggle for you, it might not be a bad idea to, now that you've seen how it works, try to restart it on your own and work through before you take that quiz.